Hi, and thank you for giving your time to Unlimited Seating. I'm your host, Sanila Samuel. Every episode, we bring to you a role model who shares her journey in an easy flowing, candid conversation. We talk about early childhood influences, career choices, and how they've navigated through biases and life in general to get to where they are at today. Through these conversations, Unlimited Seating aims to inspire, educate, and build a community that promotes and celebrates inclusion and diversity in a world where female leaders are still an exception and not the norm. Hey, hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unlimited Seating, featuring candid conversations with female role models in the workplace. I'm very excited to introduce my guest for today, Shelley Svoren. Shelley is CEO and founder of Infinite Branches, which was recently the recipient of Business Concepts 2023 Aviation and Aerospace Awards. Shelley is also a DEI working group member of the National Business Aviation Association and the board member and VP at the International Aviation Women's Association. Her area of expertise has been in general aviation and the marine industries. And recently, Shelley has also taken on the mantle of a podcast host. Shelley, thank you so much for being here and congratulations on the award.
I'm absolutely thrilled to be here. I really appreciate your podcast, the messaging behind it, and listening to the other women and what they've gone through. It's so important for all of us to tap into the knowledge and think about how we can apply that to our lives. So, what you're doing is absolutely fantastic, and it's a thrill to be here today.
Thanks so much, Shelley. And I'm really excited to bring out all that you do in the DEI space and with Iowa as well through our conversation today. Getting right into it, Shelley, something that always intrigues me, and I like to take everyone back to where they started out career-wise. What were some of your influences as you started out your career? Who were your role models growing up, or even as you started your career journey?
That's such a great question, and thank you for asking it. I've always been close to my father, and at a young age, he taught me not just how to read, but how to speed read. So I've always had this great love and passion for reading and expanding my knowledge. I have a personal motto that's ABC, always be curious. And the use of the internet has really enabled me to take advantage of that level of curiosity and meet the needs of my clients, including the organizations that I provide support for, 501c3 corporations in the US, or what we call nonprofits globally. What my dad did at a young age, he traveled around the world. He was a colonel in the Marine Corps and he flew helicopters, which is how I've always admired aircraft. And unlike a lot of people, I don't have the fear of helicopters that most people do. But he would travel around the world and he would bring back currencies. And I just found them absolutely fascinating. And I had a math acumen that he really pushed me forward to talking to his wealth advisor when I was in high school, and he would get upset with me when I wouldn't ask questions. So I always knew I would go into some type of finance capacity. And the fact that I was always thinking about a world outside of the United States. I spent the majority of my youth in Hawaii, so I was influenced by a lot of different cultures. I wanted to see the world, and so banking seemed like the best opportunity for that. When I was in college, I was taking a class that was started by a teacher's assistant who was obtaining his PhD. And he had previously worked for the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, the FDIC, which is a regulatory agency for the US banking system. And our entire final was based upon creating a regulatory report. When the FDIC came to my campus, I interviewed. I later received a job from them, and it was a really great opportunity for me to learn and grow. But my curiosity got the better of me, and I wanted to see what the other side of that equation was. So I went from working in a regulatory environment during the savings and loan crisis in the early 1990s, so it was the tail end of it. And I went to work for a bank that was focused in on technology and innovation, Silicon Valley Bank. So one could say I did a 180 degrees because at the time, Silicon Valley Bank was under a regulatory order. I worked with all of the tech companies in the Pacific Northwest, and the organization had this growing wine lending niche. It seems really counterintuitive. How do you add technology and the wine industry together? Well, when you break it down from a business model, it makes sense. A lot of the technology companies had a lot of cash on their balance sheet that they would eventually burn through and raise additional capital. But as a financial institution, you only earn money when you lend it out. So they were looking at industries that needed a lot of capital. And that's where the wine industry came in. There were a few other industries as well that did that, but the wine industry was fairly successful. So I wrote a white paper on how to lend to the wine industry in the Pacific Northwest. The team that was based in the Napa Valley got a hold of it, invited me to join, and I had this wonderful corporate move. And I was there for a little over a year, but my curiosity got the better of me. And I wanted to see the world from inside of a business and affect finances that way. So I started a career path working for a variety of large and small companies in corporate finance. And after the birth of our second son, I took that knowledge and went to work for the financial institution, which I worked for over 17 years. I enabled them to lay the foundation for lending to the wine industry. And along the way, they were growing. They were small at the time. Now they're over 200 billion in assets under management, and I'm still a shareholder. But I was able to work with not just the wine lending team because it was small and it was growing. There was a need for other industries and specializations where I had an interest in, and I had some experience, and that was the art galleries as well as hedge funds. And then in 2006, my former boss came on board to lend to the aviation and marine industries. So essentially financing aircraft and yachts for high net worth individuals and businesses that use them. And every time I would see my boss, he was my boss at the time, in San Francisco, I would bug him. I would pepper him with questions about how do you do this, and really getting into the regulations and the operational issues of the business aviation community. And he said, one day, maybe we'll work together. And out of the blue, I received a call because his underwriter had left to go on a vacation to Australia for 3 weeks in the middle of a deal and had not told him about it. And he said, I will take whatever time you have. And I said, I'm leaving on vacation at the end of this week, but tell me about the client. It turns out it was one of the clients that I was working with in New York. He said, I know everything about this client, but I don't know the aircraft collateral. If you teach me about the aircraft collateral, I'll work with you. And that was the first of over 200 deals over the course of 14 years that we worked on together. We put on over $1 billion in loan commitments during that time. And even during the economic downturn of 2008, we never had a repossession. We never lost a single dime for the bank. And none of our competitors can say that. So that's where I got to before I left in April of 2021. And it seems like such a long time ago, but I had hit a point where my curiosity to grow was being driven outside of the organization, and my desire to grow in a different way was not being fulfilled. And I decided, with the support of my family, particularly our oldest son, who at the time was 20, he gave me some very stern words to say, "You're not happy and you deserve to be happy." I took time off. I talked to several of my former colleagues, and it was really interesting what the universe puts in your path.
Yeah.
I needed time to clear out the cobwebs and all the squirrels that were running around in it. And a few things came together simultaneously. Two of my friends who are talent acquisition specialists at the highest level, they said, "You have such an exceptional Rolodex. It's diverse. Why don't you try to do something on your own?"
Yeah.
I had another client of mine who said, "Thank goodness you're leaving. You deserve to be a CEO. The way that you handle difficult situations for your clients speaks volumes about your determination and willingness to get the bigger picture done and guide your clients through the process, even when they don't want to hear what you have to tell them." That was really insightful, and it was something that I really needed to hear as well. And then a friend of mine who you may have met at the Lisbon conference, Dustin Cordier, had said to me very sweetly, "You've been essentially married to the same organization for the past 17 years. Try dating." And what he meant by that was, take a look at your experiences and think about where you want to grow and what skills and experiences you want to add to your toolkit. And he said, even if it means taking a job for a year, get that experience, put it under your belt, build your confidence that you can do this. You're thinking so much about having done the same exact thing for the past 17 years. This is an opportunity to grow. And so that's what Infinite Branches is. If people look at my website, there's a lot of words, there's a lot of higher meaning. But when you come down to it, the client testimonials under services speak about what I've been doing and the value that I've been providing to my clients. So I can do just about anything that they need in business aviation, strategy wise, connection wise, building a great team to do what's needed and allow the organizations to grow and have fun in the process. And where possible, I like to bring in fellow members of Iowa, but also a diverse network of people, men as well as women, to get the job done for the client.
That's an amazing journey, Shelley. First, growing up in Hawaii, I'm sure that was a really good experience in itself. But what a journey, right? I think that I know it was the banking industry, but just the diversity in like business, and I'm sure the type of clients you've worked with, and just the experience that you took away from all of them. I like it when you just said, when you spoke to your ex-boss and I said, "I'll do this, but I need to learn how to learn the other aspect of it." And just asking for that, just instead of waiting and tiptoeing around it, you just went and asked for it and got it. And also, I like how when you decided to leave your organization, you actually leaned on your network, which I feel maybe I don't do it very well, and maybe I'm generalizing. I feel as women, we don't use that network a lot. We don't realize the power of the network and that we can actually reach out and get advice, get inputs, and you got some really good advice. So looking at your experience, why don't you think of doing things alone? So the way you went about it, I think there's something to be learned from there.
Thank you for saying that. I like to surround myself with fellow marathon runners, people who are going to push me to do better.
Yeah.
And we have to look for those people who, they're not necessarily going to be nice to us, but they will be kind. And what I mean by that, they're not going to tell me what I want to hear. They're going to tell me what I need to hear.
Absolutely.
Because that's the only way that I'm going to continue growing and being the best version of myself.
Yeah. And yeah, like that, as you probably got feedback through that process that you didn't realize about yourself, right? Like you said, there was a client who said, "Hey, you handle tough situations so well." These are probably things that you didn't really realize you were doing. in the interactions that you had, in the deals you were making, in the relationships that you were having. So it's really good to get that counsel and shine a light on yourself and your competencies and capabilities.
It's a reflection of something that my grandmother would always say to me. And this is like a very old song from the 40s. It's not what you do, but it's the way that you do it that matters. What I've tried to do since taking time away and being present with my business is do that. Be present in the moment, appreciate every situation for how it comes up, but also take the time to respond thoughtfully rather than react. I think so many times we have emails, we have text messages, we have DMs. Take a step back and think about it before you hit send. Sometimes the most powerful message we can send is the one that we don't.
That's a good one. I'm going to remember that and use it somewhere else.
It's
Shelley, so you have your own business, but there are a lot of other things that you give your time and energy to. So I want to dive a little bit into it. Obviously, very active with the International Aviation Women's Association. Can you tell us a little bit for the audience who may not know that much about IAWA? Can you share a bit about IAWA and about your work? What got you interested and what about it keeps you going?
Well, I became interested in IAWA back in 2012 when I was attending a conference at the National Business Aviation Association. It's their annual event called BASE. And I saw a friend of mine who was wearing this beautiful, sparkly aircraft shaped pin. And I asked about it, and because it was so striking. And she told me, oh, that's my IAWA pin. And I said, I don't know that alphabet soup combination, so please say more. And she told me about the International Aviation Women's Association, and it was founded in 1988. And it was founded by the women who were predominantly aviation attorneys, and they tended to be the only ones in the room. And so they united together to create this organization that focuses on women of excellence who've been in leadership roles within the aviation industry for at least 5 years. Along the way, the network's grown. More organizations have embraced what IAWA stands for: connect, inspire, and lead. And we've been taking that much further. It's not just about the connections and being a good old girl network. It's not that. And so I want to dispel those potential myths that people may have. In fact, what I do as the VP of Leader Development is very impactful. I support 4 of our committees: the Scholarship Committee, the Mentoring Committee, the Internship Committee, and the Career Growth. Those are some large words, and they can mean different things to different people. So let me speak about how it all fits together. The scholarships that we have, they are 9 partnerships with universities globally, where we identify an organization where we want to build a relationship over time. Each year, we're evaluating a couple of different metrics regarding gender diversity of the staff, as well as what's being done to attract and retain young women to these universities. Each scholarship recipient is vetted by the university first before it reaches the application reaches our scholarship committee, and we select from there. From there, that scholarship recipient is invited, and we pay for the cost of those young women to attend our annual conference. Now, if you're thinking about this, it can be a little intimidating. It was my first IAWA conference, and I was a board member. So what we do as a board and our advisory board, we pick at least 2 members to mentor those young women and make sure that they build their network, that they're introduced to the right people that will enable their career to grow. We also have our mentoring program, which we just rolled out to our entire community. We've been test driving it a little bit and working out a couple of the kinks with the board and the advisory board. But let me tell you, we now have over 70 members, either mentees or mentors, who are involved. And I can tell you that 6 young women who have been mentees have taken a step forward in their career. I don't want to say that the mentoring program is the entire reason why, but we're attracting the young women who are thirsty for knowledge and guidance. And you have the members who are mentoring them, who want to see them grow.
Yeah.
So this is why we're having the foundation of the successes that we are. We have great mentees and great mentors. Our internship program, we look to support our scholar members. And let me back up for a second. I talked about this high level achieving women of excellence throughout the globe. And so it does set a bar for who can become a member. And that's why 3 years ago, we expanded our membership categories, because we want to be involved in building the pipeline for a diverse and sustainable aviation and aerospace industry. So we created the scholar members, and the scholars are the women who are still in university. The apprentice are women who've graduated, been out in the workforce, but have not yet taken that step forward, and they want to, into a leadership role. And then the best part about this is that we recognize that we cannot succeed without the support of the men in our community who value and appreciate the diversity that we have to offer each other. And so now we have the advocate roles. So I have several advocates involved in the mentoring program, and they're doing an amazing work of not just mentoring, but also sponsoring. We often are asked, what does Iowa do for me outside of the annual conference? This is it. In addition to the mentoring program, where they can become involved in creating that pipeline. This is for members by members. We have book reviews, we have podcasts, we have quarterly videos, and all of this is meant to build all of the business skills that you need. And people talk about soft skills, and I like to say soft skills are actually really hard. So we have 1 quarter devoted to building those hard skills. And every time we put out a book review or a podcast, it's taken from the lens of, oh, this, not just this is a cool book or this is a great person you should listen to. It's from the lens of, here's why you should listen to this person. Here's why they are relevant. And here's what you can take away. Here's some tools to contemplate for yourself, because this is an example of what great, diverse leadership looks like. It's called Connect, Inspire, and Lead. And what I really appreciate is the response from the members who are using these tools, because we've seen members use what they've learned to have conversations with their bosses that's allowed them to take steps forward in their career. And to me, that's what success looks like.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that about Iowa, Shelley. And of course, thanks for having me on your podcast. But I just want to say, having been at the conference, and we recently did Iowa Meet here in Dubai. We had, I think, around 18 women in the aviation industry meetup. It was great. I think what I really loved about the conference, and the one I enjoyed just interacting with the previous scholarship recipients, they were just an amazing group of young women, just new into the working world, but just I feel like I could still learn a lot from them. Just the energy, the enthusiasm, the passion, loved it. And just being at the conference, just the overall, it's such a supportive environment. I loved it.
It's what really strikes me about the annual conference is the care and the attention to detail that goes into it. And you may have a broad topic, but there's so many different diverse voices that it really causes you to think and appreciate the industry that you're working in. And it really does force you to build up your network and say, okay, I'm going to get uncomfortable because I don't know everything, but I know people who to contact.
Yes. And doing that consciously takes time and effort. So I'm really glad you highlighted it, but it can be really rewarding. And I say rewarding not just from a work experience or say building your brand, building your business, just personally as well. Very rewarding. Like I said, you do a lot. I don't know how you find time to do it, but you're absolutely running a successful business. But there is a lot that you're doing in the DEI space. So for me, it's like you're giving back, right? And you're giving back with your time and with your energy and with your experience. But then I also see you on social media, right? You are a thought leader. So I want to talk a bit about your personal brand. It's something that you've really invested in. And I'd like for you to share some advice with our listeners, right? How do you go about it? What made you start this, getting out in social media, putting your voice out there, and doing all of the different things that you do? Give us a few tips on personal branding.
My husband of nearly 30 years he's the first to say I have no dimmer switch. So I either do it or I don't. There is no try. But it all comes from that motto of mine, always be curious, and wanting to share that excitement and engagement with people. I fell in love with the aviation industry at a very young age. And the more people who I met who were willing to hold the door open for me or open another one and allow me to run through it, it's really important for me to look at the leaders who are coming up behind me. When I started Infinite Branches, I thought about, okay, this is the big brass ring on the horizon for me, is to leave the industry more diverse, more open, and therefore more sustainable when I leave. And I'm a mother of sons. So even though I'm on the board of Iowa, I want you to know I take nurturing young men very seriously.
Yeah.
It's really important for them to see what great female leadership looks like so that they are comfortable being surrounded by women who may have a different experience and be exposed to that as well. We do think differently. And when I do post, I want it to have meaning. I want it to have substance. And so when people see what I post, it's always there's a purpose behind it. But it's not just about me. I want to make it about other people as well and highlight the great work that people are doing of all ages, of all backgrounds. And I think you may have seen my post about being recognized by the business concept. I had no idea that I was even in the running. I had no idea that someone had nominated me. My spam is filled with all of these offers to pay $5,000 to be placed on this list. And spawns may have seemed a bit crass because I was reading this at 5 a.m. going, oh, do I have to pay for this? And I said, who nominated me? And they said, it's confidential, but it wasn't a popularity contest. They did their due diligence. So somebody within the community had respected and valued me enough to put my name out there. So I couldn't not acknowledge that. But at the same time, too, I realized I was walking a fine line. Am I being self-aggrandizing? So I took the opportunity to say this was unexpected. And to everyone who's taken a few minutes out of their day to talk to me as I was formulating what it was I wanted to do, I wanted them to know that I appreciated that. I will always be grateful for it. And we're all there together working towards mastery and excellence. And that's what we always have to keep our eye on the prize. And winning awards is amazing, especially when they're unexpected. But it doesn't mean I should stop doing the work that I'm doing. In fact, it causes me to go, okay, how do I bring other people with me? How do I build other people up? And right after I had posted that, there's an award for the National Business Aviation Association called the 40 Under 40, where they look at the upcoming leaders. And so I made a post about it once the door was opened. And I had so many people reach out to me to say, okay, I'd love to nominate this person. And I have several people over the past couple of days who I've been completing the application for, because it goes back to saying, okay, these are people who I admire.
I love that, like building people up and taking them along. I love what you said about your sons, right? I think it's really important. I think sometimes we look at, when we talk about bringing more women in the workplace or diversity, I think sometimes the conversations tends to be like, oh, we need to keep the men out. But that's not what it is. It's about working together and just having them see you and see other female leaders that you work with. It's so important for them, like you said, to be comfortable with it, so that when they go into the
Absolutely.
workplace, they pull people in, they know how to work with them, and they can actually pull ideas in and exchange those, say, different ideas and opinions. So I just love that. I love the way you're thinking about it and the way you expressed it.
Thank you. I like to ask people to really think very broadly.
Yeah.
What does support look like to you? And that's such an open-ended conversation. And it could just mean, I just need 5 minutes of your time to talk something through.
It's great. Shelley, I just love the journey that you took us through and sharing your experience. And again, like I said, you do so much, not just for your own business and for your growth, but just for the broader community. And I think I really appreciate that personally. Like I said, I've enjoyed whatever I've got from Iowa so far and enjoy listening to your podcast as well. And I'm going to catch all the episodes that you're going to put out. So I want to say thank you for taking the time for doing that. And I hope it just continues. I've always be curious. And I think it speaks a lot to, say, your values, that you've grown, you've done a lot, but you're staying true to that. And I think that shows up in your humility, your willingness to just listen to other people and get diverse perspectives in. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you for this opportunity to share with everyone. And I will say, if I were a book, it would be titled A Work in Progress. And it is a journey. I didn't start at this point. And I've had moments in my career where I've been very down. But I would say to the people who may be down, look to your community.
Yes.
This will pass. And have belief in yourself and your community.
Oh, thank you. That's a great message. Thank you, Shelley. Listen, really appreciate your time. I know you have a million things to do, but thank you for taking time out for Unlimited Seating. This is going to be a great listen. So thanks again. And I really hope to stay connected, and wishing Infinite Branches and you a lot more success.
I am so grateful for this opportunity to share this time with you. I've really enjoyed getting to know you and listening to the fantastic podcast that you operate. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you in San Diego at the next Iowa Annual Conference.
Likewise, Shelley, thank you so much and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you for staying with us for another episode of Unlimited Seating. Unlimited Seating is available on all major podcast directories, and you can also watch us on our YouTube channel. Please do share your feedback. Alternatively, you can subscribe to us at www.unlimitedseating.com and get notified when new episodes are published.